What is going on, Sales Dev Squad? Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Sales Dev Squad podcast. It's your host, Mateo Elvira here, back with another episode. We'll be speaking to a really special guest today. He is a director for over 1,200 commercials, 4 features, 3 docs, 1 Netflix special. He's also the host of a really great podcast that I've had the opportunity to watch, the Respect the Process podcast. I've also signed up for his recent course online, How to Direct Cats. Mr. Jordan Brady is on with us today. Thank you so much for joining us, Jordan.
Mateo, it's such an honor to be on your show, and thank you for signing up to learn how to direct cats. Because if you can direct cats, you can direct anything.
Absolutely. Jordan, I guess obviously this is a very sales business development oriented podcast, and you're a filmmaker. I guess, do you mind just telling a little bit about your background, how you got into filmmaking, and obviously you specialize in commercial directing right now, and I guess I'd love to just unpack that a bit further, like, what is commercial directing?
Right, that's a great question. I won't give you the long version, but my story is that I was a stand-up comedian in the mid to late 80s through the mid to late 90s. And I still dabble, but not professionally. But I made a living as a comedian. And I had some notable appearances and notable bits and things like that back in the day. And that got me into television as an actor and as a host. And I was a game show host, believe it or not. And as I worked more in television, I fell in love behind the camera. And once you start producing and directing, you realize how important the script is, how important the writing is, which is the same with stand-up comedy, right? So I wrote some projects and shows and movies, and that led me into directing. And then once I started doing commercials, because just how random opportunities arise, and I was actually pitching companies to get money for an independent film when they said, we're not giving you the money, but we'll pay you to direct this commercial. And I fell in love with it. Partially, Mateo, because of my attention deficit disorder, the 30-second commercial is just a cakewalk for a director. So that's how I got into commercials, and it turned into 20 plus years of doing it. And for the listener, a commercial director is somewhat like a dressmaker, where the client and the ad agency come in and they have an idea of a kind of dress they want for a wedding or a big fancy ball, right? If you saw the movie Phantom Thread, Daniel Day-Lewis was a dressmaker. And the dressmaker has her or his artistic interpretation and has a point of view about how to make you go to that specialist for that dress, right? But ultimately, the client doesn't like the way her arms look fat in the sleeveless dress. So you, the dressmaker, bend and go, well, let's put some sleeves on there and make you happy. And then you get paid handsomely, and your client goes to the ball and feels like a princess.
So when you're directing commercials, Jordan, like, what's like the main goal? Like, obviously you mentioned off the record earlier that it's completely different than filming a movie and a sitcom and a TV show. I guess, like, what is really the end goal for these commercials that you've had the opportunity to work on, many of them for many different brands?
Mateo, you've done your homework. That's a great question. I think everybody knows about the auteur, the Scorsese, the Spielberg who makes a film, right? And it's their complete vision that's up on the screen. And in television, it's a writer's medium. So the director is a hired gun and is basically servicing the writers and producers, managing the actors and the cameras and everything, but it's more helping someone else's vision. So I think the commercial director is somewhere in between. There's already a script that's approved, but you add your flourishes, hence the dressmaker analogy. So the purpose of, or the goal of making a commercial is to sell a product. And if it's not a direct sale, like if there's no menu or like burger at the end of the commercial with $5.95 value box, it may be like Nike, where it's just communicating the culture of the brand. So you want to communicate and get people to spend their money on that product or that brand, either directly or vis-a-vis branding, and instilling that confidence in the brand.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal is to deliver the script in a way that is better than it was on the page when the ad agency sold it to the client.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you have like any, obviously like directing Cats, you mentioned like was a real fun project that you worked on, and I've had the chance to go through some of the deliverables that were actually presented, which is really cool. Guys, check out that course. But like any interesting projects, or do you want to share maybe like a few like brands or just like interesting projects that you've had the opportunity to work on over the years?
Yeah, I mean, just the ones that pop into my mind recently, well, right before the pandemic shut down the world, I shot a series of spots for Buick, and they have a new car called the Encore GX, aimed at like the college and post-college consumer. So it's a sporty little 4-door, 5-door hatchbacky thing, like a mini SUV. So we shot on a college campus at SMU in Dallas. We hired cheerleaders who happened to be from this school called Navarro College in Texas, and they had a show that was coming on in the next couple of weeks while we were casting, called Cheer. And the Netflix show Cheer has become a huge success. And we, by chance, cast some of the cheerleaders from that show, like the week before it launched.
Oh, wow.
So we stumbled into it. So what's interesting to me is, from a business side, is that we did a tie-in because Buick sponsors the NCAA, and the commercials were intended to sponsor the Final Four, NCAA Final Four basketball tournament, which got canceled. But along the way, the Netflix show started airing. Morgan became a huge star, a breakout star from the show, and we have her on set. So the agency, which is Leo Burnett in Detroit, the client, which is Buick, and myself said, why don't we make her an influencer? Why don't we get her to do some special little social snacks of video? And we were actually posting them live from the set. And this is probably 3 or 4 weeks before the pandemic hit. So I love that story because we got added value for the client. It helped this young cheerleader out. It exploited a wonderful opportunity that fell in our lap. And I think it sold some cars. Now, hopefully we shot enough that we can retrofit the commercials for NCAA football.
Mm-hmm. Wow, it sounds like a win-win for everyone on that one.
Yeah. And here's another one that might be interesting. There's a wrestler in the WWE, or whatever it's called now, right? Named Goldberg. He's been around for 25 years. Big old bald guy. And I know that doesn't narrow it down, but he's been a championship wrestler and in TV shows and movies for 20 years. So Goldberg was the spokesperson for Dodge. Now, hopefully your listeners will catch on that the theme is I'm a specialist, and I think filmmakers should specialize in the commercial space so that you're known as an expert in your field. And mine is the intersection of cars, comedy, and celebrities. That's why it was fortuitous that this cheerleader, she wasn't a celebrity yet, but she became one after we cast her.
Mm-hmm.
Goldberg is a celebrity in the muscle car family. So Dodge made him a spokesperson, and they came to me to direct him in a bunch of commercials where they were going to give away a Dodge, like a 500 horsepower Charger, okay, Challenger, whatever it is. You'd think I'd know. And so we did a bunch of commercials. And then on a whim, Dodge and the ad agency calls, they're called Sapient Publicists. They do a lot of big commercials. And they have an idea just to say, Happy Thanksgiving from Dodge. And they want Goldberg in it. So we jump on the phone, and I contribute ideas like, well, what if he's like spinning the car in 360 and he's doing donuts and burnouts, and he power slides next to a Thanksgiving table, gets out of the car, rips off a turkey leg, and says, Happy Thanksgiving, and takes a bite. So that it builds to a crescendo, and the only thing he says is, Happy Thanksgiving. And we shot it, I think, like 48 hours later. And it was on the web the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Wow, quick turnaround.
Like the whole turnaround was like 4 or 5 days from the phone call, from the initial idea to broadcasting it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about that is the trust with a client you've worked with an agency you've worked with. They trust you. You service their idea. You add to the idea. And then on the filmmaking side, it's purely execution. It's all production. So I approach the job as a commercial director in two fronts. One is the creative, where I'm plugging into a team of creative people, women and men at the agency and their clients. And the other is more craft and technical, where I'm leading a crew to execute what I've pitched on the creative side.
Interesting. So it's kind of a fine balance of creativity and leadership.
Yeah. And while there's leadership on the creative side, so I mean, the job of the commercial director is to lead. And so I would amend that to a balance of creative and craft, ideas and technique.
Mm-hmm.
So, development and execution.
Yeah.
The reason I put out the course that you mentioned, How to Direct Cats, as a case study, is not so people could go out and direct cats. Like, that opportunity doesn't come around enough.
Yeah.
But I felt that the leadership on the creative side of fleshing out an idea and making an idea leap from the page to something that would sustain 30 seconds, and then showing the behind the scenes, how, like, from watching that behind the scenes, Mateo, I never touch the cats. I don't pet the cats. I don't feed them. I don't go, here, kitty. I delegate to the animal trainer, which is a great analogy for all the specialists that you as a director have to lead. The cinematographer, she's in charge of the camera. The gaffer is in charge of the lighting, and the cat trainer is in charge of the cats. You're the chef. You've got a saucier and a whatever the other chef kitchen people are.
That's awesome. How did you develop this skill set of like creativity, right? Because like in sales, a big tool in our pocket is leveraging like creativity, leveraging storytelling, obviously you're a professional storyteller. Like, how do you develop those creative skills, or how have you been able to harness that over time?
Well, I think like anything, I mean, it's a lot of practice and experience, failing, noticing what works, what succeeds. And in a sense, my skill set is heavily built on the foundation of being a stand-up comedian. Because as a comedian, you're the writer, director, editor, performer of your jokes. If you watch any Netflix special of a comedian, it'll all say, written and performed by Russell Brand or whoever, Jim Gaffigan, whoever your favorite comedian is. They wrote the material and they're performing it. And even though I directed a comedy special for Maria Bamford, an incredibly talented comedian, it's really hard, I think, to take credit for directing a comedy special. I mean, when I see directed by so-and-so, I'm like, okay, well, you basically, filmed a tiger. You didn't direct the tiger and tell the tiger what to do. You put a bunch of cameras and the tiger did the tiger thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, directing, you can take classes, which I recommend, and I took classes, watching other directors, like in the sitcom world and in the television drama world. There's a thing called shadowing, where it's an informal invitation to watch a director direct an episode or two, sometimes a season, so that you learn the ins and outs of a show. You learn the culture of the show. And that's a way that people learn. But until you actually do it, it's like stand-up comedy. You can't just practice in front of the mirror. It's not the same as being up in front of an audience.
Yeah. Jordan, I know I asked you this on Instagram, which I really appreciate you getting back to me so soon. How were you able to land your first client, or like how were you able to land your first paying customer that said, "Hey, we trust you, make it happen"? Like, how did that come about?
Uh, in commercials or just as a director?
Um, I guess commercials.
Well, with commercials, I had promos and television segments and television pilots that I had directed, and a couple episodes of things. So I had a portfolio that said I was called the director on these pieces of film you're watching, these stories, and they tell a cohesive story in a comedic way, because that's my thing, comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So for commercials, the first one actually was, like I said, I was pitching these production companies to invest in a feature film I had written and that I was going to produce myself. And the first company said no, but we have this this project for WD-40, which is a you put it on your
Yeah.
squeaky wheels and stuff. And they said, your sensibility on the work you showed us pitching us to get money is aligned with WD-40's script. So I did a conference call, not even knowing what I was supposed to do on a call. I just started talking to the client and the agency, and they loved the call. And they there's a leap of faith. They know that you're signed up to a production company that produces commercials. They're going to surround you with talented people, and you just have to lead the crew and tell the story and work with the actors. And then you interface with the agency and client to make sure that they're following along with what you're doing with their script. An alternative to the dressmaker analogy that I use sometimes is like, you're the midwife. You know what that is? Someone that delivers the
Yeah.
baby and then hands it off to the mom. So again, it's not like a feature film where I go write and direct this feature film. Like Paul Thomas Anderson and Wes Anderson, I don't think they're related. are both two visionary directors that when you see their film, you go, oh, that's such a Paul Thomas Anderson film. In a commercial, you strive to put your DNA in the script, but I think your career is a bit more varied. You know, in addition to Cats, which is very different from the WWE wrestler and the cheerleaders for the cars. Yeah, that's what's fun about it is, you know, the ADD of it all. It's short. It's like a 3-week life cycle from the initial call to, you know, that the director in a commercial is involved. I'm involved in the edit, but an editor takes over. You hand the ball over to the editor, and she brings it home with the agency. I've supervised cuts and give notes. On the Femiclear, I actually was very involved with the editor, who was so talented and had the timing down. And they do the different versions and the title cards at the end and the music. So it's a lot of fun. And then on the sales side, Mateo, a commercial director has a sales rep, an agent that is soliciting opportunities from ad agencies and sometimes clients directly. You know, some clients have their own agency in-house. What's been fun for me is how you and I met was through this masterclass. You know, I started commercial directing film school, and you can check it out at commercialdirectingfilmschool.com. I put up one class since the pandemic because I do a live seminar that I had to cancel. I had to postpone until October. So I said, well, I'll film a master class and put it online. And it's been doing great. We've served 400 students, and I call them students, but they're professional filmmakers from 8 different countries around the world. And it's teaching people how to direct commercials at the professional level that I've been fortunate enough to do. And directing Cats was something I put out I think it was last Thursday, just to say, you know what, here's another opportunity. It's a lower price seminar, you know, it's a shorter seminar at a cheaper price for people to get in and see if they like it. And you're not finished yet, but at the end, there's a $50 secret code word for the other masterclass, $50 off.
Yeah, I definitely saw that. Jordan, what do you enjoy the most about filmmaking? Like, could you see yourself doing anything else? I obviously know the answer to that one, but like, what drives, like, what about filmmaking? Just like, what do you love the most about it?
Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record, Mateo, but it goes back to comedy. I love making people laugh. And, you know, as a stand-up back in the heyday, I think the biggest crowd I ever got up to was 3,500 people at a college. I did a lot of colleges. And of course, there are superstar comedians. Like, I love Chappelle, Chris Rock, Jim Gaffigan, I mentioned. I love watching them in these big theaters with thousands of people, making them laugh. And for me, I can reach millions through commercials. And a commercial is basically, in the comedy space of commercials, it's a setup and a punchline. It's a problem and a solution. Mm-hmm. And so I love it. I can't think of anything else, although I do enjoy teaching, but it's teaching filmmaking. Mm-hmm. So I started that in 2015 with quarterly seminars, because I love that after 22 years of commercials, I want to help people with a shortcut, right? Like, why should you have to spend 10 years figuring out when I can give you the keys to the kingdom and you can start telling your stories? And a lot of people say, well, aren't you creating your own competition? And in a way, yes. I actually have bid against, on the Femiclear commercial, I bid against one of my former filmmaking students from
No
commercial
way.
directing boot camp. Yeah.
That's a good
And so
sign then, right?
that's a great sign. I was like, wow. And it was a female, and she's great, and she's super funny. I was like, oh man, I kind of secretly hope that she gets the job. But I have to win. I like winning more.
Yeah.
So I think, as long as I can stay relevant as a storyteller and a filmmaker, I'll do it until my dying days.
Mhm. I know I picked your brain on this like earlier, but like, where do you think the entertainment industry is headed in this post-COVID world? Or how do you think it will change, or if it will change the industry at all?
Well, I mean, physical production has changed, just that there's guidelines. And I've shot a couple of jobs. One, and this is an anomaly, but my wife is a director, my son is a cinematographer. So an agency asked us during quarantine if we could shoot, and we got my father-in-law and his wife to be in it. So we were kind of our own safe pod. That doesn't answer your question. I think it's going to stay the same. I think the industry adapted. You saw a lot of commercials with Zoom, quads. Saturday Night Live did shows from home where they had all the cast on Zoom,
Yeah, I saw that
and
one.
we're all tired of that now. And Saturday Night Live will be back in the studio, albeit with a smaller audience. Scripts. One of the scripts I did where I was on set, we all had masks, we all got tested, we had thermometers at the door, but the script had one actor talking to the camera, so we never paired the actors together, right? So the creative is modified to suit the times and the means of production, and now that's changing. Now we're coming, whether it's accurate or not, we think that we're coming out of the pandemic a little bit.
Mhm.
And actors, like I'm doing a thing in November where both actors will get tested and quarantined. I think the best example is the NBA. They all lived in a bubble.
Yeah, it's
They
it's
put the
hard now.
audience, yeah, they put the audience on the Zoom. And so if that lasts for another year, which I hope not, but Mateo, what in 3 years we'll look back and it'll be like this blip, this horrible blip that we all lived through. So I don't think the lasting effects are going to be that strong.
Mhm. Could leave a
You know,
really
they
good opportunity for anyone to just get into something that they've always wanted to now.
absolutely, because the standards that are accepted have been not lowered, but they've been modified so that if you have an iPhone and a good idea, the good idea is more valuable than the means of production. So the iPhone has, all the tools have risen. The cameras you can buy, the proliferation of tools, where if I went on Craigslist, I could find a person that knows the tool of a Red camera or an Alexa camera. These are like, there's a new Panasonic, there's a Sony camera that rival what feature films have been made on for years. And I could go on Craigslist and find that technician and collaborate with her and make a commercial for next to nothing. So the cost of entering the marketplace as a storyteller is next to nothing now.
Yeah. I mean,
And
you can
so
get
your
so much done
audience,
on an iPhone camera, like literally.
oh yeah. And if any of your listeners now are thinking about it, the one piece of advice I would say is get a good microphone, because that's what's good. If the playing field is leveled because of the visuals, you're going to stand out by having better audio. That's been since the invention of talkies, right? Talking pictures.
Mhm.
But as far as sales and development, on the master class in my film school front, here I'm a guy with no real sales experience, and learning some of the methodologies and all the like Now I get emails about sales funnels and people wanting to reach out, and I've paid for Facebook ads, and I'll promote Instagram posts. But you know what I've learned? It's it's a lot of word of mouth. And the best thing has been, like you and I doing DMs. Uh, it's been so fun. And I see that in directing because, I love it when the client and the ad agency are happy with the commercial and you're being of service to their script. But being of service to a customer or a filmmaker or someone that wants to learn a bit more and you can help them learn, that to me is better than some, landing page, click through funnel, free. I, I don't know enough to speak intelligently about why those funnels work or don't work. But I know the interactions that I've had with people just through Instagram have been very fulfilling, and I take about an hour a day to try to communicate and answer questions about filmmaking.
Mm-hmm. So you've already obviously seen a lot of success with just connecting with people in this whole digital landscape. Like, where do you think the future of like personal branding and digital branding is for filmmakers or just any entrepreneur or anyone out there just looking to just get connected?
I think personal branding is a must to cut through the clutter. You know, uh, I know you and I both follow Chris Do of the Future,
Yep.
and I think his personal brand is so strong, and he's given away great advice, free content. It's fun to look at. Like, his sense of style is amazing in his Instagram post. Like, he's mastered the 8-slide Instagram post. I look forward to it and I learn every time. And his personal brand is so strong that you grow to trust his opinion on things or seek it out. For a filmmaker, oh my gosh, Mateo, you know, I want to be known as a resource to ad agencies looking to film a commercial, to the point that even if I'm not right for the job, I would rather recommend another filmmaker. And I've done that. There was a hidden camera job, and I had a couple of hidden camera spots, and this agency was talking to me. And as they explained the assignment, I said, I actually have a buddy that did a hidden camera spot for the Super Bowl, and he's better equipped than he would do better for you than I would. And that did not make the production company happy that I recommended a competitor. But in the end, I felt like it was my personal brand wants to be known as to have integrity and to give you the best option for your assignment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like you mentioned. It's just I feel like a necessity these days, and you're meeting people where they're already at. I mean, everyone's on social media these days. Everyone's spending hours on that, and if you can make a good profile like yours, or just have good content out there, I think that's the future.
I agree. I mean, it's funny because Facebook has become so divisive as we head into the election, and and there's just no convincing anyone from the other side of a topic. Everybody just digs in, right? My conservative friends cannot be swayed. My liberal friends get irate at the conservatives, and it's just, to me, it's become a digital space that I'm not as happy playing in. And I
Mm-hmm.
still post, and I love connecting with family and cousins, and it helps my mom connect with my kids. Grandma gets to see everybody and all that. But and Twitter is a little more pithy and instant and disposable. So I like Instagram. I'm not a TikTok person, but I see that TikTok. I think TikTok will. I predicted 6 months ago someone will come up with a better TikTok. And now YouTube has introduced shorties or short stories or whatever they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how many Vine stars did we know?
Yeah.
And a lot of people will tell you, don't just stick to one platform. It's like planting your crops on rented land.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, I like Instagram. LinkedIn is a good place, but I don't see a lot of business opportunities on LinkedIn, ironically. How about you?
I think it depends on the profession,
Mm,
and who you're trying to reach. Obviously, there's a lot of sales professionals on there and business people, I guess. But I think it's a really good platform. I think it's growing, but I think it all depends on what you're trying to do. I know that you have a really good LinkedIn profile, so I don't know. I think if you're a little bit more creative, I think Instagram and TikTok or maybe some more video focused platforms might be really helpful. But I think it all depends on what you're trying to do and who you're going after and where those people tend to live more on.
yeah, that's a good point. Like filmmakers, for me, are on Instagram because it's a visual medium.
Yeah.
Um, I did get one good job from an old colleague off LinkedIn because it was just a means for us to connect, for him to
Mm-hmm.
find me. And it's interesting. Years ago, I'm going to say like 2003, I did a commercial for Finding Nemo cereal. It was a Kellogg
Okay.
cereal. It was essentially uh, name any Kellogg cereal with marshmallow bits in it, like whatever their version of Lucky Charms was. That's General Mills, right? And but they made it look like Finding Nemo, sharks and fish and all that, and starfish. So we had an animatronic puppet, probably like a 5-foot shark that was a teenager sitting at a kitchen table with a spoon in his fin, eating the Finding Nemo cereal.
I
And
don't
in
even
2000,
realize it.
right, and the mom shark was in the background. She was a large puppet. And in 2003, Mateo, CGI was expensive and cumbersome and just out of our price range. So we made a real puppet that was puppeted with, sticks and a remote control eyebrow. And we could afford to make the lip curl into a smile with some like 2D and 3D animation, CG. So it was augmenting a puppet with the digital tools of the day. And I got that job because I had worked on other Kellogg's products. And the creative director, Jeff Abbott, I love Jeff Abbott, just a wonderful guy, creative and, and inventive. He wrote the whole script. He came up with the whole idea. And that one, I was just there to execute, creative problem solving. Well, cut to 2014, 11 years later, I get a LinkedIn message from Jeff Abbott. Hey, Jordan, I've got a bear and a bull that walk upright. They wear clothes. They're day traders on the stock market.
Oh my god, that's so
And
creative.
they're talking about this app. It was called Ditto Trade, where you can follow your friends' trades, and that will guide you, right? And I'm working with them now, and the bear and the bull talk. And so you're the expert in anthropomorphized animatronic animals that interact with products. So, I mean, he knew I did other stuff. I'm exaggerating, but he knew that I could handle that type of production. And he knew I would add to the creative and get the performance out of people that are in these giant suits. And by this point, we knew that we could do a little bit of 2D and 3D augmentation on these suits. We got Legacy Effects, which is a legendary guy, Stan Winston, who has since passed, his company to make the suits. Actors are inside walking, and they have like cameras in their snouts with a TV feed to these glasses. So this is like,
It's futuristic.
it's kind of, and their mouth moves. The mouth of the bear and the bull move connected to their jaw, and there's someone like twitching the ear, and we did some of that digitally, and it was a great shoot. We shot for a couple of days, and the spots came out and served their purpose, and they actually got a lot of critical acclaim within the ad world, like in Ad Week and Ad Critic and Ad Forum, all these trade publications, because it was a novel way to express this new product and to introduce it. And that's Jeff Abbott. That's not Jordan Brady, the TV director. Again, he came to me saying, I want to make a couple of dresses, a bull and a bear. You're the dressmaker. Make it real.
Mm-hmm. You're the man for the job, whether it's animatronics or Finding Nemo cereal.
and so the lesson, I think, is specialization. And I tell the filmmakers that I teach at Commercial Directing Film School, and you can learn more at commercialdirectingfilmschool.com, Mateo. I tell them, specialize. But the trick is, you don't have to specialize in one thing, which is almost antithetical to being a specialist.
Yeah. That's great advice, Jordan. I know we're coming close to the end of the pod here. For anyone that has made it successfully through and just super intrigued by your experience, and they have decided that they want to learn more about filmmaking, or just advice on how they can just do something that they love, what advice do you have for them?
We live in an era where everything that you want to learn is online, starting for free. There is a TED Talk, there is a YouTube tutorial. When I had to learn how to do some of these effects, I did this huge Toyota campaign with visual effects that were kind of like Vine magic. If you know who Zach King is, like he mastered Vine.
Oh, yeah.
Jump cut tricks. It's funny because now everything he did, you can do on TikTok with an app. I mean, he's very inventive. I don't mean to take away from his magic, but the technology has moved forward. And I did these commercials where I was going on YouTube, watching Zach King, and then a guy named Raj in India was doing tutorials breaking down Zach King tricks. So Raj, I think he was in Bombay, was like, hey guys, it's Raj. I'm going to tell you how Zach King jumped into a glass of water. Yeah? I know I don't do the accents. I sound more Jamaican than Indian, but Raj, never met him, but he helped me for free. And then, as a filmmaker, I remember when I first started out, I took a seminar from Wes Raven, who did all the Scream movies and Halloween. And I never wanted to do horror, but I thought, what could I learn from a filmmaking class that is outside of my comfort zone? So I took that class. In fact, the horror class was very inspirational for the How to Direct Cats class, because I want you to glean something out of it that is not obvious. And then the masterclass series that, you pay, what is it, Mateo? It's like $199 for unlimited masterclasses. I've learned so much. There's a guy, Shane Hurlbut, who has been the cinematographer for a lot of your favorite movies and commercials. He has the Hurlbut Academy. I'm unaffiliated with it, right? The Hurlbut Academy, they have, I think, 24 classes where he did professional shoots and hired a crew to teach you the cinematography tricks that he's been doing for 30 years. So I think you, I think a person, and I'm using filmmaking as an example, right? But it applies to a lot of things. I think a filmmaker could make her own ad hoc college out of online courses with nominal, very little expense.
Hmm. Yeah, compared to like traditional education. I know that's what you kind of talked about with your podcast with Chris.
Oh my gosh, Chris has a master class. In fact, a filmmaker in Miami, Rodrigo Tasca, is my friend now because he took my master class, not the cat one, but the longer one. And we did a consultation because I'm giving away, if your listeners have made it this far, okay, so we've weeded out a lot of people and they're interested in filmmaking. So that weeds out a lot of people. And then within filmmaking, they want to make commercials. So now we're down to 2 people. They should know that I'm doing free 20-minute consultations after you take the master class. We get on the phone, you send me your work, and we develop action steps for you to get to the next level of your career. I don't charge for that, and I have a lot of fun, and I learn so much. And so far, a guy got signed to a production company off of our call. Another person landed a big campaign.
Nice.
Another guy got a new client, and another person got their client to commit to 5 more commercials. And so Rodrigo is a friend I met through doing a consultation call. He's in the Chris Do Future Mastermind, like one of these groups. And you pay for it, but you're getting advice from peers
So
and
much value.
so much. And so I'm not in one of those, and I don't have one of those because I don't think I could pull it. I don't think I could do that. Um, but I would recommend people find your niche, and someone has already paved the way.
Hmm. Thanks so much, Jordan. I know that you mentioned that you offer a variety of different courses and classes. I personally are in the how to direct cats, which I'm for. It was like what, $69, $70, and there's you literally show us like the deliverables and like there's just so much. I don't want to say value, but there's just so many resources in that alone, and I'm sure like your master class has even more in depth knowledge and stuff. Again, where can our viewers and listeners find more information on just any of the filmmaking courses that you have to offer?
Commercialdirectingfilmschool.com. Everything's there. Links to the podcast, links to everything that I'm putting out there. And the price of the cat thing went up yesterday to $99. So your listeners should use the code DIRTY30, one word, DIRTY30, to knock $30 off to make it $69 that you mentioned. Because
Okay.
you put it out there, I don't want your listeners to go on my website and be like, "Hey, Mateo said $69. This is $99." So a lot of
Either.
people would pay $100 just to see an agency brief and deliverables.
Oh, for sure. Like I said, there's just so many deliverables and like PDFs and files and decks on there that like give you a really good understanding of like what that process looks like. So, anyways, Jordan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Again, I'm a huge fan of your work, and I think, like yourself, I really love filmmaking. I feel like storytelling and being creative is something that has helped me in my current role as like an SDR in tech.
Mm-hmm.
But I think filmmaking is just one of those things where it's just really fun. It's one of my passions, and I think it could be translated to a lot of different skills. And like you said, just being specialized in a lot of different things. So I'm hoping our viewers here found this really helpful, and we really appreciate your time.
Mateo, thank you. And any of your listeners, I'm at that Jordan Brady on all the socials, and I'm pretty accessible. And so DM me if I can help. And if I don't have the right solution, I think we'll be able to come up with someone that can help you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jordan. Sales Dev Squad. Hope you guys found this helpful, and we will catch you guys on the next one.
See you later, Mateo.